friends and making music and making racket and playing high school dances is how it starts. And like the town hall in your crappy little town, which wasn't crappy, it was wonderful, but you know, you just kind of, it's just sort of a natural evolution to go from that to the local bars, and then hopefully you build up enough of an audience that you kind of graduate to whatever the next level is. I mean, back then it was the goal was to get a record deal and, you know, write your own music and record your own music and play in front of people and hope that someone cares enough to keep doing it. And but that's basically probably the same way it is today. And with the advent of the internet and everything else, it's a different game, but it's essentially the same idea.
Yeah. And how did that first record deal happen for you guys?
Oh, it was magical. We were 19 and we made millions of dollars, and it's just, you know, no, I honestly, for us it was like, you know, we were really, really focused and really, really driven as a band, and we'd sort of worked really hard playing clubs and just killing ourselves, just traveling around the country, to the point that we had an audience and a following that we kind of, to some degree, could write our own ticket, you know, as far as like when someone would come and offer you something, you'd be kind of like, yeah, we're doing that on our own. You know, we're making our own records and we're selling them out of the back of a van, and cassettes and stuff like that back then. So until somebody would kind of like show up with something, you know, that we could really actually consider as a step up, we were always very focused on international stuff, like States and UK and Europe and that kind of thing. Because we knew we had built up a very good audience in Canada, and we could sort of, as an independent act, kind of drive around back and forth across the country for the rest of our lives, essentially. And, you know, we sort of, like everything else, we sort of started to do distribution deals with indie labels and punk rock labels, and then they have other companies like Universal and things like that. At the time it was MCA was around, and a lot of labels like that. And we eventually just sort of, we got seen by some American labels, and we signed out of New York City, and we made a record, and then the president changed at the label, and then we were let go from the, you know, it's a classic example of how the record industry kind of works. But, you know, at the same time, we had always retained our Canadian independence. So even losing an American deal, we recorded the Make a Pestaped in, I guess, 96. We were recorded at 97. So when we released it, it was a completely independent album recorded on an American label, Mercury Records, on their dime. And then when they had a change of president, et cetera, which happens all the time in that industry, we were kind of like lost in the shuffle. So we said, well, we'll just release it ourselves in Canada. And we had a hit with Remote Control and all that kind of stuff. So, and, you know, with that came, like, you know, we didn't really have a whole lot of money to break even on, because we kind of made it on our own to some degree, and with another company's money who just didn't, you know, basically just cut us loose. And then when we were just pretty much ready to kind of like just sort of you do all this work to get to the starting line, which feels really crazy to put like 9 years worth of work into something that just kind of leads you to the starting line. And then you look at each other and go, I hate you and I can't stand you, and let's break up. It wasn't really quite that dramatic. It was just more like everybody had, like, over that time really sort of started to pursue other things, and we all became busy with other stuff. And it just seemed like, I just talked to my old manager from back then last week from New York City. And we just sat down, and he was just like, you guys broke up at the worst possible time. And I go, I know, right? Like, we were just kind of, we'd done all this work to this point, and the whole world was our oyster, and we just kind of said, let's not do this anymore. And I think that in a lot of ways, I really kind of look back on it, and I appreciate that we did that, you know, that there's not an Age of Electric right now touring with, you know, like me and like 3 other dudes, and, you know, I think that'd be really lame. So the fact that we kind of got back together, well, 17 years later or whatever it was, to do some stuff was, you know, was really rewarding for me. I thought that was really the right way to do it, and make new music and tour new music and all that kind of stuff was very exciting.
Yeah, and you guys have all moved on to great projects, and
Yeah.
you've really persevered. You also got, another record deal with Static and
Yeah.
Stereo.
Yeah.
And you jokingly said that Universal at the time owned your firstborn and your life. Do you kind of still feel that way about record labels and signing a deal with them?
I don't even know, because I talk about this all the time now in 2017. It's sort of like when I'm out with Slash, we're touring, and there'll be some opening act, and they'll say, oh, these guys are signed to Atlantic or some label, and I go, what does that mean? It's like, I don't even know what that means anymore, because back in the day, you would get a record deal, and there'd be an advance, and tour support, and all that kind of stuff. Today, it's a lot different. There's more 360 deals where people, the band and the label, and everybody sort of shares in the whatever profits are coming in. That means merch, that means publishing, that means everything, record sales. So I really haven't played too much in that world. In my world now, it's sort of, we do a lot of crowdfunding. I have an amazing bunch of friends who, for whatever reason, are crazy enough to support me. A lot of them are here today. And it's, I'm thankful for every minute we get to do this. But back then, it was sort of, Age of Electric had done so much legwork and so much, so much in the trenches, just, fighting every day to, when I say fighting, it's kind of like, playing music is an absolute pleasure. We just love doing it. So, yeah, we wouldn't have done it any other way. But, it was a lot of, trial and error to try